Am I the a-hole for telling my mother-in-law and wife that I will no longer drive them to their family's holiday reunions? My wife, 44, and I, 43, have been married for 10 years. Ever since we dated, I have been the default driver. She gets stressed about driving and I get motion sickness unless I drive, so it all kind of worked out. For the last couple of years, we started a tradition during the holidays to drive about 5 hours to my wife's cousin's place. After we make plans to visit, all of the cousins would fly in from different states to join us. Since my mother-in-law, 78, lives near us, she would come along too. She used to make the drive herself in the past, but cannot do it by herself anymore. While my mother-in-law needs to make many pit stops, more than the average person, that doesn't bother me. I am happy to be the driver. We did this a handful of times with no issues. So, the other day, my mother-in-law was over at our house, and we were talking about making the drive for another holiday get-together. And then my mother-in-law, out of nowhere, says, I would love that if Bobby, me, would promise to drive safer. I was very confused about her criticism of my driving. First of all, she has never mentioned this before. Also, I get made fun of by my friends because I drive like a granny, no offense to grannies. I mean, there is dangerous driving, and then there are people who maybe drive with one hand or don't always abide by the 3 seconds behind the car rule. I don't exactly count every time I get behind another vehicle, but I keep a safe distance. Honestly, all I could think of that might be considered dangerous is that I tend to speed up to pass semi-trucks because I don't like being behind them. Don't most people do this? I pass them in the left lane and get back in the right lane. I also want to add that anytime I have a passenger in my vehicle, I am extra careful. In addition, since we have a 3-year-old daughter, add another level of care. I was kind of flabbergasted that my mother-in-law thinks my driving is at all dangerous. I asked her what she means and she mentioned that at the speed of 60 miles per hour, I need at least 12 car lengths between the car in front. Who actually does this, especially when there are many vehicles on the road? I don't mind driving, but driving 5 hours, making sure we are safe, weighs heavily on me already. I don't need someone looking over my shoulder, judging my driving. I was pretty heated inside and didn't respond to her immediately, to which my mother-in-law said, Bobby, it's rude to ignore me when I am talking to you. This made me even more angry. My wife immediately knew that I was not happy. She knows that when I get angry, I tend to not say anything because it is my defense mechanism from saying the wrong thing. Growing up, my dad was the kind of person who would not think before he opened his mouth during an argument. Even if he was right, his reactive responses would make him look dumb and wrong. I thought through what I should say and I said, I don't have to drive if my driving scares you. I can sit in the back and keep Lisa, my daughter, occupied. I was pretty proud of myself because I said it pretty calmly. I would have enjoyed not driving for once. My wife, trying to calm the situation, added, I can drive, no problem. At this point, my mother-in-law started to talk to me like I was 5. She said, that's not an adult response. At this point, I just lost it and said, it's fine if you don't like my driving. I think I am a pretty safe driver, but if you don't like it, I don't have to drive. Tess, my wife, said she can drive. Problem solved, to which she started arguing about the rules of the road. I told her that I will be an even worse driver knowing I am being judged and second-guessing myself. It's probably better if I don't drive at this point. Honestly, I don't remember how the heated moment ended, but I have been stewing over this since. My wife has been very supportive of me and kept asking me, are you really not going to drive us? Honestly, I don't want to. Am I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for making my mother-in-law uncomfortable and embarrassed during dinner? We had Thanksgiving today instead of tomorrow due to clashing schedules. My husband and I agreed that he wasn't going to invite his mom, due to conflicts in the past involving food. Where she takes food before everyone, we feed the kids first in this household, and then takes off with Tupperware of our food without even saying goodbye. And there have been multiple times there wasn't much food left to go around after this. She has food insecurities and hoards food. Real problem, but it is not my problem and shouldn't be made to be mine either. So, I take issue. Obviously. Because usually it's me going hungry, because I am always the last to eat here, family of 6, for kids. I serve my kids, and then my husband, and then myself. Now, my husband did not invite his mother, but she caught wind somehow and showed up. Neither me or my husband said anything because we didn't want to cause issues, so no, we did not kick her out. When dinner was done, I called the kids over by saying, kids, food. Mother-in-law immediately jumps up from the couch to get to the front of the line and starts attempting to dig in. I said, I'm sorry, but are you a child? No? Go sit down and wait your turn. Her face goes bright red, and she goes back to the couch and crosses her arms, mumbling under her breath. When I called the adults, she stayed planted on the couch and said something like, are you sure there's even enough for me, in a childish tone. I don't react. I choose to ignore. She comes up a while later, grabs food, wolfs it down her throat, and then goes to our cupboard for Tupperware. I ask what she thinks she's doing and she said, well, Tom is at home. Figured it would grab him a plate. I told her that her boyfriend that none of us have met is not our problem and she is not taking our leftovers to feed him. She asked if she could take a plate for herself, so I said sure and exchanged the Tupperware she grabbed, one of our oversized ones, and exchanged it for a normal-size container that would hold roughly 2 cans of soup. She asked if I was serious, and I said dead serious, and walk off. She throws the Tupperware in my sink and walks out without saying anything. However, she did just call my husband and give him an earful about feeling unwelcome during the holidays and stated that I was acting both immature and high and mighty and embarrassed her in front of everyone. My entire family was there, so roughly 12 adults and 10 kids, and has demanded I apologize. She was on speaker, so I calmly said that I would not apologize for making her follow the same rules as everyone else, and perhaps her own entitlement to other people's food is the real issue here. That we didn't spend $1,000 for her to take $200 of it home with her, and she needs to take a step back and assess her behavior. She hung up. But now my husband is radio silent and says he doesn't want to talk about it and is giving me the cold shoulder. Am I the a-hole for blaming my fiancé for Thanksgiving being a disaster? I'm sitting in my pajamas, fuming about this whole thing, and my fiancé is acting like he holds no equal footing here. I need to know I'm not crazy. When I was about 4 years old, my parents introduced me to their friend Rose. She started spending a lot of time with us and eventually moved in. They were always very close friends, and she was very good to me, but I didn't think anything weird of it. A lot of people I knew lived with family, so I thought it was like that. When I was a preteen, they explained to me that they were all together. Not polygamy or a sister-wives situation, but Rose was in love with and dating both my parents. It was a little jarring, but I accepted it, and honestly, it didn't change much. Rose was still one of the people who helped me with homework, pitched in with dinner, taught me how to ride a bike, etc. She was there for every big moment, even the sad ones. The only thing that changed is they started kissing one another in front of me, but nothing gross, just the typical parent pecks or whatever. I knew this wasn't the norm for every family. My friends were fine with it when they found out. Not all of their parents were as understanding or accepting, but we were old enough that we could see each other outside of our homes, and it didn't impact me a whole lot socially. Twice, I had a boyfriend who found it weird, but it was revealed early on in our relationship, so it wasn't a huge heartbreak. I've been with my fiancé for the past 3 years. We've been engaged for 1. When we started dating, I explained my parents, and he was cool with it. He has hung out with them and spent holidays with us. His family lives across the country, and they haven't been able to fly out to visit much. We've only afforded 1 trip there since I started dating. The first time I was meeting them, I asked my boyfriend to tell his parents about my parents and Rose, and let me know what they said. He told me they were completely fine with it. Every time we saw each other, it never came up specifically, but I would mention Rose in passing and no one batted an eye. So, I figured all was fine. This year, his parents were able to fly out for Thanksgiving. My fiancé and I were hosting. My parents and Rose were coming too. Again, I think not much of it. Everyone's under roof. Everything's nice and merry. Then, at some point I go to check on food, and when I come out, things are noticeably awkward. Fiancé's parents, my parents, and Rose all look uncomfortable. Fiancé looks annoyed. I ask what's wrong, but no one will tell me. I awkwardly announce it's time to eat, and the meal is quiet, outside my parents and Rose engaging with me. Fiancé's parents leave for their hotel as soon as we're done eating and don't bother to stay for dessert. I'm even more confused. My mom eventually pulls me into the other room and explains that while I was checking on the food, my father and Rose were talking about a trip they're taking. Fiancé's parents looked confused and Fiancé's mom asked Rose is going with you? My mom had said, of course, which seemed to disturb them. My mom then said she explained they were all in a relationship together, and that even further disturbed them. She told me she was hurt I lied that his parents were okay with them. It wouldn't have changed that they came, but they would have been more careful to not make it awkward. I told them I didn't lie at all. My fiancé told me they were okay with it. She apologized for accusing me, and I apologized she went through that. My dad, and Rose left not long after that. My fiancé and I got into a huge argument after this. He said he didn't know how to tell them, so he just didn't. I told him he's been lying to me for 2.5 years and put everyone in an uncomfortable position. I asked what his parents thought, and he had told them Rose was my aunt who lived with them to save on rent. I asked him what he expected to happen. My parents and Rose aren't making out and in people's faces, but when they're in what they assume are safe spaces, they act like they're in a relationship. He claims it's all on his parents for being weirded out and making it awkward. I said no, this is on him. He lied to everyone and made it terrible for everyone. Sure, his partners could have acted normally and they are at fault for not recovering and trying to have a nice meal, but he's still more so at fault. He just doubled down and said he didn't do anything wrong. He is now mad at me and says that I shouldn't be blaming him for this, and instead should just be mad at his parents. I am just so confused and lost, and wondering if I'm going crazy by being mad at him. Am I the a-hole for choosing to no longer attend family gatherings my nephew is at after he attacked me today at Thanksgiving? My 8-year-old nephew has had multiple behavioral problems and decided to misbehave today. Edit for clarity. He has pulled a knife on my mother, beat her with a stick to the point of her being hospitalized, unable to walk, thrown things at her and given her black eyes, and attacked kids at school, teachers, therapists, counselors, my family, and the police. He has been hospitalized in inpatient services at mental hospitals, is on medication, and will do okay, and then just randomly snap and attack people. He was jumping on furniture, swearing, and hitting me in the head repeatedly. After telling him repeatedly to knock it off and respect the rules of our house, he just wouldn't listen. My sister did nothing to discipline him, and he kept aggravating my family. He eventually got worse and attacked my brother, causing him to spill his drink on our carpet. During dinner, he kept hitting me in the head, and I told him to knock it off, as did my parents. He had been doing this throughout the day, 3+ hours. I then told him he will not be welcomed back, and we won't give him any presents for Christmas if he continues. He continued. I then tried ignoring him, and he continued to repeatedly come and hit me in the head while eating. I told my sister to discipline her kid, and she did nothing. Eventually, I had enough, so I grabbed him by his shoulders, picked him up, and decided to bring him over by my sister before he escalated the situation more. He has a history of violence. He then laughed, said, "This is fun," then immediately headbutted me in the face, messing up my nose, and causing me to almost drop him. I caught him with one arm around the chest, but my sister then saw me carrying him like that and screamed to stop because she thought I was choking him. I put him down by her and he punched me in the face, so I restrained him so he couldn't get more violent. She and my mom screamed at me to stop, so I loosened my grip and he punched me in the face again, and my sister got on top of him to help restrain him as I held him down with one hand on his back and the other on his wrist to control his arm. My sister kept yelling at me but was on top of him, so I figured I'd remove myself from the situation, and then got punched in the face by him again as I moved away. My mom and sister said I was too aggressive with him. My niece was scared and my brother called her away and said she didn't need to see that as my nephew was telling me to F off and swearing at me. My sister immediately took him away and he said, "F you, uncle," and told me he's going to kill me and next time he sees me I'm dead. She left with him, but the entire night was ruined. My parents immediately started cleaning up. My brother tried to calm his daughter down since she was in shock, and my wife and other brother were in shock. We hadn't even eaten dessert yet. As I was cleaning up downstairs, my mom started blaming me and telling me I shouldn't have escalated, and I told her he kept attacking me and should have listened, and them yelling at me for removing him and restraining him just enabled him to act out more. Things got heated as she yelled at me and I yelled back that I was not going to continue to be attacked in my home when my sister wouldn't discipline him and to stop blaming me every time this happens as I am the victim and he is violent. He pulled a knife on her at her house last year. My family intervened and calmed things down and I walked away and told my mom I love her and sorry for raising my voice and went upstairs to clean up and be away from the situation. Things were calmer when my mom came back upstairs and we were cleaning, and then she again blamed me for setting him off, and I fired back that nobody was disciplining him when he continued to be disruptive and abusive to me in my home. Things got heated again with her yelling at me and blaming me for escalating things, and my wife intervened and pulled me away and said we are not going to have this in our house on Thanksgiving as my dad tried to explain to my mom that my nephew wasn't listening. I didn't hurt him or have intention to, and just tried to remove him after being hit repeatedly. Soon after the mood was ruined, and everyone except one of my brothers left. I was heartbroken as I spent hundreds of dollars, took off work for the week and planned this for months to make this wonderful for my family. My brother stayed with me because he felt so bad knowing all the work I put in and having it ruined. My wife talked to me and said my nephew is a liability and sooner or later would seriously hurt me or her, and we shouldn't be around him anymore. My nose is messed up, I have a bruise on my face from being punched, and have a massive headache that ibuprofen has not seemed to help. The argument then started with phone calls, as my brothers and wife support my actions and say I was right to peacefully defend myself and remove him. But my mom and sister think I escalated the situation and should have just let him keep hitting me to keep the peace because of his history of violence and mental problems. My dad thinks I was right as well, but also is upset with me for being upset at my family and claiming nobody else stepped in to help discipline him, especially his own mom, my sister. My wife and I agree that my nephew is no longer welcome in our home, and we will not be attending any more family events that he is at, as this is the third time he has attacked me at a family event and needed to be restrained. He attacks my sister all the time, has attacked my mom multiple times and put her in the hospital by beating her knee with a stick to the point she couldn't walk, and we don't want any part of that. My brother does not want his daughter around him and his violence anymore and backs me up and will not be around him anymore. And my other brother agrees and called me afterwards to say how sorry he is that things were ruined and he and his girlfriend will not be attending events my nephew is at anymore either. My family is now torn, and I'm not sure what is going to happen moving forward, as my two other siblings were not in attendance, and I don't know where they stand. I know this will break my parents' heart to no longer be together as a family at events, but I refuse to continue to be attacked and abused with my nephew receiving no repercussions, and me being blamed continuously when I restrain him to keep order. This kid has been to so many counselors and therapists, kicked out of multiple schools, and has attacked teachers, therapists, and even the police. I feel my sister and mom just letting him do what he wants so they don't get beaten just enables him more, but they think that defending myself is escalating the situation and causing more problems rather than just letting him do what he wants to appease him. When at my mom's house, I understand, since I can just leave, and have left before in the past when this happened, but this is my home, and I had exhausted all other options. Am I the a-hole for restraining my nephew after hours of him hitting me, jumping on furniture, and attacking my brother? That's all for today. Thank you for watching.